great day to be an Eagle. One more time for the greatest team in
All right, Eagle Nation, we are back. Welcome back to GATA Talk. This is Season 8, Episode 3. It's Part 2 of our Georgia Southern 2025 preview, and it's the episode probably a lot of you have been waiting for, where we actually talk about expectations, Cody. So are you ready to
Yeah,
you ready to tell your expectations for the year?
of course.
We've done predictions in the past. I want to be careful with, kind of defining expectations versus predictions. I don't know how much predictions we're going to be having in this, and I wouldn't put a lot of stock in those anyway, because again, we've done them in the past and they weren't very accurate, but we are going to talk about our expectations as fans, because again, this is a fan podcast for fans by fans. So welcome to GATA Talk. Go and find us on YouTube. Hopefully you know that we are on there by now. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like this episode on YouTube. Go and find us on or review us. Give us a 5-star rating anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, what have you. Shout out to our sponsor. Our old sponsor is our new sponsor, Can Cut Tools, premium drill bits and cutting tools. Georgia family-owned small business. Andy Thompson is the owner there. He's a Georgia Southern alum and proud supporter of this podcast. We thank him. So please go show him some love, even if you're not in the market for that. But if you know someone who is, again, premium drill bits and cutting tools, you can check them out at CanCut. That's KNKUT.com. Also find them on Instagram to see kind of what they're all about. And yeah, all their products are made in the USA. Premium stuff. So go check them out. Tell them GATA Talk sent you. And yeah, thank you, Can Cut. So with that, Cody, like I said, part 2 of our season preview. If you didn't listen to part 1, go do that. We go in depth, 2 hours, breaking down offense, defense, and special teams. Spoiler alert, we're pretty high on all 3 units, or certainly on offense and really on defense. Special teams has some question marks, but we just focused on kind of the depth chart in that last episode. We just focus on paper, these are newcomers to look out for. These are returning stars. These are guys that have been on the roster that, look out for them. But we didn't really talk about anything else. We didn't talk about how they're going to put all that together, and, who we actually have to play and who's going to line up, across from us on Saturdays here in just a couple weeks, starting on August 30th at Fresno State. So in this episode, that's where we do that. We're going to break down the schedule. We're going to break down the key games. We'll talk about out of conference. We'll obviously spend a lot of time talking about Sun Belt East, a little bit about the West, really focusing on kind of the 2 opponents we get out of the West, and Southern Miss and Arkansas State. But yeah, just kind of like our outlook, like what, I teased in the last episode, picked to finish second in the Sun Belt East. Where, do we think that's realistic, right? And again, as fans, what are those expectations? What is that bar? Cody, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I guess, do we want to just break down the schedule first, or are we wanting to, and then just kind of say what our expectation is after we kind of look at the opponents and kind of how we're feeling about it?
I think so.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, yeah. Like the last couple of years, I think it's been that way, where we had all 4 of our out of conference games to start the season, right? We didn't have like the random one in November or something like we see with some teams.
Yeah.
That's the case this year. Get them all out of the way right out of the gate, starting with a back-to-back road trip in California, which is the first time we've ever played a team from California, apparently.
Which I found weird.
I thought that was really weird. I mean, certainly in the FBS era, that sounds accurate, but I would have thought in the FCS days that at some point through in the playoffs or something, we would have been playing somebody
exactly
out there. So that's surprising. So yeah, so first ever trip, I guess, to California. It's what they tell us. And we're going to stay out there for 2 weeks. So starting August 30th at Fresno State, followed by our Power 4 game at USC. So Cody, I guess just starting with Fresno, how do you like that matchup? I mean, again, traveling across the country is never easy.
No, it's not.
Certainly not the first week of the season. Fresno State, interestingly enough, that'll be their second game. So they do open against Kansas at Kansas in week 0. So that's obviously a game we're going to be watching very closely. And yeah, one that we probably wouldn't have been paying that much attention to if we didn't play them the next week. But yeah, I encourage everyone to go watch that one in week 0. And we're going to have a dedicated episode just around the Fresno State game here coming up. But yeah, so no, like, don't give too much away of like spoil that, but just like generally, how do you feel about opening up the season against Fresno?
Well, honestly, I think the way that we went out last year and performed against Nevada and came out of there with a victory gives me confidence going into at least that game that we can manage the travel of going out 4-5+ hour plane ride and going out there and getting a victory and coming back home. So at least with the recent history of that victory, I feel a little bit more confident in what I would have probably going into like this game in the first 2 seasons of Clay Helton's tenure here at Southern. But no, I look, Fresno State's sort of a question mark. Like you said, we won't really know much about them until that week 0 game against Kansas. They have a new head coach. They, I think, are kind of introducing a new kind of offensive system and new probably philosophy. But again, I feel confident going into that game. I think their only real big question mark for me is the time, the time or the time difference, jet lag, that sort of stuff, and just traveling to the West Coast, and then just sort of how prepared, honestly, just can we get focused enough to just go out there and get the victory, not either look ahead to the USC game, which we all know has its own storylines with it. Can we just stay focused on this and go out there and play our game?
Yeah, no, for sure. And looking at this, hopefully you can see the screen. Hopefully those watching,
I can see the screen.
There you go. All right, so it's working. So yeah, troubleshot it. Here we go. Yeah, looking at that, obviously 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 local time there. I think that's actually probably a good thing. I believe we're going to get in town on Friday, so we're not going to have like a ton of time to acclimate to the time difference. But I like the fact that it is a later game and not like a noon game or something where our biological clocks, right, are going to be at like, 10 o'clock or something in the morning, not 9-10 o'clock. So that's probably a good thing. I also like that of these two teams, I like that we're opening against Fresno and not opening against USC, because obviously you get to scout those teams. We'll get, tape obviously from this season. I'm sure our coaching staff will be paying very close attention to that game against Kansas. But yeah, I like not opening against a Power 4. Yeah, I like not opening against a Power 4 and instead opening against a Mountain West team that has been struggling as of late.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that we get the advantage of going straight from fall camp into prep against Fresno State. Well, Fresno State really just has the 1 week like you would for any other opponent, right? Because they have to really use this fall camp to prep for Kansas. So, yeah, it'll be, again, to me, the biggest question mark with this is just travel. Can we sustain how well we played on the road last year, this year? Yep. We're obviously going to need to if we actually want to win the conference or be in contention for the East. Yep. So, yeah, I think this is going to be – we're going to find out very early, I think, fans are, that what kind of team we're going to have. Or is this going to be a team we can get excited about and get behind? Or are we going to watch this game and we're all going to be like, man, this may be a long season?
Yeah, and I think it could be misleading. I do think it, like, on one way. So I think if we go out and we're dominant and we crush them, that's going to be very reassuring. Mm-hmm. It's going to be reassuring, obviously, going into USC, but really just for the rest of the season. If we go in and struggle, I think it could possibly be misleading. Just because of all the things we said. This first game, they have a new coach, they have a new scheme, they want to do things similar to like Troy and teams like that we have struggled with as of late. And yeah, so I think all of those factors, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, and I'm almost like speaking this into existence of like reassuring myself of like, if we look bad, if we end up losing that game, I don't think it's fair to hit the panic button.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility we could lose this game and be just fine, including possibly even beating USC the following week. I just think it's just one of those games. I don't want to call it like a trap game. I think that's weird for like the first game of the season, but it's just like one of those games where it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we come out and we're just like struggling, and then maybe get things, start turn things around, but it's too late for that or whatever, and we end up like on the wrong end of kind of just a sloppy game all around, right? It
Yeah.
kind of like Nevada last year, right?
Yeah,
The
I can see it. I could
2017.
see it being like a slow start type
Yeah.
thing, and then we're sort of in this dogfight that we don't want to be in.
Exactly.
And
Lose on a field
so,
goal or something like that.
yeah,
Everybody would be hitting the panic button immediately. And I guess that's my message is like, yes, obviously I want us to win that game. I think we can and should win that game. However, like, don't panic if we
yeah.
do
There's a
find
there's a
ourselves.
lot of uniqueness to this matchup that again I think it can just lead it to some interesting trouble. Again, I think to me the biggest thing is really the time difference and how we're going to adjust and the travel to that. Again, how we did with Nevada, I think leads me to be a little bit more confident. But again, you just never know. We have a lot of the same players, but we also have a different team, so we'll see how it turns out. But no, I actually feel pretty confident about that game, to be honest with
Do
you.
you? I mean,
Yeah, I
there's a lot of
do.
similarities to
I
the Nevada
do.
game.
Yeah.
Honestly, like new head coach wanted to run the football. I think, certainly historically, Fresno State has been a much better football program than Nevada.
Hmm.
But obviously, all the travel factor, all that kind of stuff. It's not at altitude, so that's they're in the valley, so like that at least shouldn't affect us. I certainly don't think heat and stuff will be a factor because obviously we're used to that. So yeah, weather I think is going to be fine. Yeah, I'm optimistic about the game, but again, I think it's first game of the season, really no
Yeah.
matter who the opponent is, you just
It's
never
just that
know. You
nervousness.
just
It's
never
just, I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
it's just the nervousness of the fans, right? Like you have high expectations. We have some high hopes. We just really want to see the first game be a right step in the right direction. And I think that's just the nerve. At least for me, that's the nervousness in that game is, okay, are we going to do it or are we not? And if we
Yep.
don't, how bad is it? And is everybody just going to lose their ever loving minds before we even get back from California and
It's
the
possible.
following week?
It's possible, especially if we lose that game and then,
Yeah.
USC goes the way most people think it will go,
Hmm.
right? With us on the losing end. And then, yeah, we return to Statesboro
Yeah.
0-2. There's going to be a lot of panic buttons, but yeah, so let's move on to USC again. Power four opponent. You mentioned in the last episode, Cody, of like talking about the defense and, can we get like 25 points per game or lower being allowed? And you made the great point that, hey, we faced some potent offenses last year in Boise State to open the season. And then obviously Ole Miss as our Power Five opponent. USC is not Ole Miss, just point blank. Period. They're not. It's obviously a game that's going to have a lot of emotion on our side because Clay Helton obviously is returning there. It's always hard to tell, like, will the players rally behind that? Like, they'll obviously know that that's a thing, but
Yeah.
it's not like they were involved in any of that, right? And
No, but I
yeah,
think they want to go out there and get the victory for him, right? Like that's a I want to go help my coach kind of get something back and let them know that they made a mistake. I would
Mhm.
see where that would sort of kind of be the mindset within the team, right? Like, yeah, well, like this isn't personally affecting us, but at the same time, it is because now he's here as our head coach. Now I want to go out there and perform for him to show them, hey, you really messed up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, this is a no pressure game, right? Nobody's expecting us to win this game. Nobody's expecting us to really put up much of a fight in this game. Honestly, there's no pressure for us as we roll to Los Angeles. If we go out there and get shellacked, okay, well, move on to the next week. Nobody's going to bat an eye. If we go out there and keep it close and come out with a victory, well, then my goodness, the excitement and everything for us is going to be through the roof as
Yeah.
we prepare for Jacksonville State. So to me, this may be the loosest game that I think we see the team play this whole season, just because there should be no pressure on them at all, and they can really just go out there and just play, just honestly with no with no lack of regards for anything and anything. Just go out there and just play fast and hard and strong, and not really worry about not taking chances. Go out there. I mean,
Agree.
who cares? Take the chance. Take the chance. Do the fake play. Do the extra the extra blitz on second down. Who cares? Just go out there and try to create havoc, try to put the pressure on USC, and see what happens.
Agreed. Which again is why I really like the sequence of games here. Of like, if this was the first week of the season, I think you still have some of that, but it's still that first game, right? So you still have the first game jitters. You're still working out timing with like new receivers and things like that. Now we've got one game under our belts against, a quality enough opponent as, for lack of a better term, a tune-up, right, for your Power 4 opponent in the same state, right?
Yeah.
Just a couple hours away. So like and we're staying out there. So I think that sequence of games is paramount because like, if you can take care of business against Fresno State, a team that we should beat on paper, then to your point, we've got one already, and then go in with kind of reckless abandon and just let it all hang out against USC and see what happens. So
exactly.
I love it. Where if it was the first game, it's like, oh, we got something to prove. You get the first game jitters, blah blah blah. Like, so that's great. And then obviously return home for 2 games. Started with Jacksonville State. This is an interesting one. It's part of a home and home series. I think we go there either next year or the year after. But so obviously Jacksonville State, a newcomer to the FBS, only been around a couple years, did win Conference USA last year, but Rich Rodriguez obviously leaves. He, I wouldn't say turned that program around. They were a solid FCS program. Kind of found themselves in the FCS playoffs regularly. Certainly wasn't like a top 5 kind of caliber program in the FCS, with like the Dakota teams and things like that, but still a very solid FCS team. But I would say Rich Rod took him to the next level. Obviously good enough to get him his old job back at West Virginia. And he takes most of the team with him. So which is a trend, right? Tell me if you've heard that before. So much like maybe not as dramatic as the Marshall to Southern Miss situation, and that one even more unique because it was within the conference. But they are not the same team that won the Conference USA championship last season.
No, they're not. And their offensive coordinator was a coach here last year with our tight ends and inside receivers coach, Clint Trickett, who was also the offense coordinator at Marshall with Coach Huff for a number of years before he was let go and came to us for a season. So to me, the biggest thing with Jacksonville State is, you mentioned trap game earlier, as far as the first game can't really be a trap game, right? Because you're getting up for it. But to me, this is the trap game. It is after USC. It is, to me, again, another thing where jet lag could be a problem here. How well did we play against USC? Did we beat them? Are we 2-0 coming back? And are we thinking that we're on top of the world and, we're focused? We think that we're already in the conference championship. We think we're already in a big time bowl game.
That's dangerous.
So that's a dangerous combination there. And then it's Jacksonville State. What have they done? Or have they struggled their first 2 games? Have they been blown out? I don't know what their schedule is, but let's just say that they've got a hard opponent and an easy opponent, and they struggled against both. They got blown out in a close victory, and we thinking that we're going to just, it's at our place, we'll blow them out. No.
So they play UCF and Liberty. So there's a good chance they're 0-2. They're 0-2. Yeah.
So again, if we come back from California 2-0 and they're 0-2, are we going to focus on this game, or are we going to listen to all the positivity and everybody patting us on the back and saying, "Oh man, y'all are great, y'all are awesome"? Who's Jacksonville State? What part of Florida is that in? Like sort of those sort of questions. It's, again, to me, this is a dangerous game. Not so much because I think Jacksonville State is more talented than us or is a better football team. I just think that the focus here could be elsewhere depending on how the first 2 games go.
Agreed. Yeah, kind of the opposite of what I said with the sequence of games, right? I would have loved to have Maine here as that buffer and had those flip-flopped. You ease into USC with Fresno State. I would love to ease into Jacksonville State with Maine once you return home after a long road trip out on the West Coast. But you go and again, they're not the same team that won the Conference USA championship last year, but they still have that pedigree. And especially if they come in 0-2, they're going to come in with reckless abandon.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They're going to come in looking for blood. And so that's a dangerous game. I would say out of these 4 out of conference games, that's probably that trap game.
Yeah.
And certainly is the case if we end up 2-0 on that opening road trip. If we're 1-1, I think that's still somewhat there. If we're 0-2 coming in, I think it's a little bit like we're almost in desperation mode. I think we are focused, and I think we take care of business against both Jacksonville State and Maine pretty easily. But yeah, if we're coming in on our high horse, look out. That
could be it. Yeah, exactly. All right, so
Maine don't have to spend a ton. Yeah, look, I mean, a solid FCS program. I don't know what they were last year. I can look real quick, but they've certainly we've faced them in the FCS playoffs before, and I believe while we were in school, Cody, we played them. But I think we might have played them one time.
I'm not sure.
In the FBS
I know that
era.
we played them under Lunsford. That was we struggled in that game, like we did for whatever reason under Lunsford with all the FCS schools.
All the FCS. Yeah.
But that has not been the case under Helton. I think we've blown out every FCS school that we've played. I would think that trend continues this year.
They were 5-7 last year.
I was going to say, I don't think they were really that great last year.
They were 5-7. They did lose like a close one to Montana State.
Okay.
So for whatever that's worth, they got blown out by Delaware, who's the FBS program now. They got blown out by Villanova, played Oklahoma. They got beat 59-14. Yeah. So they're certainly not, kind of a power. I mean, this is one that should be a layup. You never know. Yes. But I will say that, under Helton, we have taken care of these FCS programs like we should a lot more comfortably than we did under Chad Lunsford.
Yeah. So, all right, now
it gets interesting. So
this is the real schedule.
September 27th, right here. I mean, right out of the gate, Cody. I think this is interesting. So. Yeah. Again, preseason coaches poll at the Sunbelt Media Days, we're picked to finish second. James Madison is picked to win the East. Most of the so-called experts are all calling it basically a two-team race in the East between those two programs, with a sizable drop-off once you get out of those two teams. So this could be the East Championship right out of the gate on September 27th. The conference opener for both teams, and it's up there. The away team has struggled mightily in this series since James Madison joined the Sun Belt. Obviously, first year we knocked them off, when they're a ranked team. Then they return the favor and blow us out of the water. The following year, we beat them pretty easily, multiple scores. Last season, now we return back up there to Bridgeforth, where again, we have not won, at least in this modern series. So, what's it going to take to win that game, Cody? How important is this one? I mean, obviously it's important, but I guess the question is like, again, you get it out of the way early. Certainly, whoever wins this is going to be in the driver's seat for the East, because not only do you start, Sun Belt Conference play 1-0, but you start with that super valuable tiebreaker over, the other team in this so-called two-horse race. So I guess the question is if we go up and lay an egg and lose this game, is the season over? No,
season's not over, but it does mean that we probably need to run the table if we want to win the East. I will say this, again, the predictions, the experts, whatever you want to say, it does say that it's James Madison and us. I've never known of a season where all the experts got everything right. I don't know if James Madison will come out of these. I think they're a very good team. I think they're well coached. But I think they finished the season last year 8-4. I think it was either 4-4 or 5-3 in conference last year. So again, I don't look at this as like a dominant team as like Singeti in terms of how those first 2 years of James Madison, which is just a absolutely force to be reckoned with. But at the same time, this is important. James Madison will be a top team in the East. They will be a top team out of the Sun Belt. And if you want to win, if you want to be the top dog, if you want to have that championship, you got to beat teams like this. And it doesn't matter if you play them fifth game of the season, if you play them the last game of the season, or somewhere in between. You got to go up there and beat them. Yep. To me, the biggest question mark really is this a road game? Can we go up there and beat them on the road? And to me, if we do that, that's going to be a heck of a sign going forward. I mean, that's going to be a huge sign that I think we're ready to take that next step and actually go out and try to win this conference.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I agree. I think James Madison has a lot of hype behind them. They did win 8 games last year. They won their bowl game, so they got 9 total. I think, certainly not following in the footsteps that Signetti, was paving, but certainly a step in the right direction for that fan base to be optimistic. But I'm just not completely sold on them. And I think the defense had like a lot of issues last year. And they got a big question mark at quarterback. So I'm showing on the screen here. If you're watching on YouTube, Cody, hopefully you can see that.
I can.
Their roster here. So I mean, don't pay attention like this guy. I don't know who Blake Kendall is, but Matthew Sluka, right? This is a guy that played for Bob Chesney, their head coach, at Holy Cross. He was at UNLV last year. Supposedly, this is multiple reports out there. There was a sum of money, right, and NIL that was promised to him that was not realized, didn't come to fruition. And he had a falling out. He left the team kind of mid-season. They were having a great year, still finished with a great year with a former Campbell quarterback, right? But and gave Boise State a run for their money, was even in kind of the playoff hunt there for a little bit. But now Matthew Sluka comes in. Alonzo Barnett got hurt in the final game of the season against Marshall, a game that we needed JMU to win. They couldn't get it done, miss it by just a play or two, drop into Marshall, who of course goes on to win the Sun Belt Championship game. We don't know his health status. That's kind of the big question mark there. So, he's a guy that a lot of people are excited about, had a good year last year, but, a lot of people question, is he even going to be the day one starter? And if he's not, who is it going to be? Probably Matthew Sluka. And if it is Matthew Sluka and he plays well, we might not even see Barnett at all play this season.
No, you're right. To me, when I heard that he had transferred to JMU, I thought it was going to be probably almost a given that he would be the quarterback coming into this season. And to me, for it to kind of be a competition right now, it's sort of surprising. I know that I think a lot of fans at JMU are kind of high on Barnett. He did play well, I think, for the majority of the season. I know in the game against us, he did not play that great, but he seemed to put up pretty decent numbers from last year. So again, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting storyline out of JMU as to who will be their starting quarterback at the beginning of the season. I would not be surprised if at some point you don't see Saluka in there playing multiple games as a starter, whether they're struggling at first or whether they hit like a little mid-year hump or whatever the case may be. I just don't foresee him always being on the sidelines. I just don't think you bring in that kind of guy who has that caliber of talent and who's been in the system that Bob Chesney has used at Holy Cross to make them a winner. When that team had no football identity or program at all beforehand.
Yep.
And so I would be very shocked if for some reason he just sits on the bench the whole time. That'd be very shocking to me.
Agreed. I mean, obviously the connection with the head coach, I get that. But yeah, if you're Saluka, you don't make that move unless there was like some promises of like, hey, I feel really good about being QB1.
Yeah.
You don't play, you don't transfer from a place like UNLV that again had a really good year last year, was in the playoff hunt, certainly in the Mount West conversation. Yeah, you don't do that to go to a Sun Belt team to be QB2. So it'll be interesting. These are Barnett stats on the screen here. So almost 2,600 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 442 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. So really good numbers. But again, we just don't know what that needs.
And I think he only had like 4 interceptions last year or something crazy like that too.
4 right here.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like he didn't really turn the ball over that much. So again,
so the hype's real, but again,
he had good numbers. It's just a very interesting story to watch out of Hattiesburg and see kind of how that plays out. Or Harrisonburg or wherever they're from there in Virginia. Yeah,
Hattiesburg's a different.
That's the next team that we play. And so, no, I think to me that's sort of their big thing. I know that you mentioned their defense. Their defense should be pretty solid. Everybody's high on their defense, especially their defensive line. And I think that that will probably be the strongest aspect of their defense. I think they also have a pretty good secondary as well. If I'm not mistaken, they had 2 pick sixes and as well as like 2 more interceptions in that North Carolina game
Yeah.
in which they went they beat them 70 to 56 or
Something
70
like
to
that,
50,
yeah.
something crazy like that. So again, I think the interesting thing with JMU, if I'm not mistaken, they have a new defensive coordinator, which I think is somebody that Bob Chesney worked with when he was at Holy Cross. So that will be, I think, something else to watch if you want to know of another storyline outside of the quarterback battle or the quarterback issue is how much does their defense either drop off or improve under the new leadership of their defensive coordinator. I think Matt's trying to look up that individual's name right now.
Sure.
Let's see if I
Yep,
can find it before
so-
him. New DC is Colin Hitchler, who was the co-DC at Cincy in 22, Wisconsin, and Alabama last year. So he was at Alabama last year. So this is where he comes from. I think there was a connection with him at Holy Cross. I think at some point while Bob Chesney was there as the head coach, that's where they crossed paths. I don't know if he was the defense coordinator or if he was a position coach, but he obviously has come back to reconnect with him at James Madison to be their defensive coordinator. So again, we'll see how that works with as well as their defense was last year.
Six starters returning
6 starters. Okay.
on defense, only 4 starters returning on offense. I assume that's counting Barnett.
Yeah, I would assume that's
So-
counting Barnett too.
So
I think one of them's their running back too.
Yeah, their running back George Petaway, he's very good. I believe he was on the preseason All Sun Belt. So I think their identity is running the football. That's what they want to do, and yeah, that's very much in kind of the calling card of Bob Chesney is what he did at Holy Cross. Obviously, a guy like Matthew Sluka knows that offense really well, can run the ball. Obviously, Barnett can as well, but yeah, I think they're going to feed Petaway early and often probably this season, working through some of those kind of growing pains.
And I think they have 1 or 2 other running backs in that room that either were injured last year for whatever reason didn't play that are also really, really talented. I think they have I think they have a lot of good talent there. Again, it's just sort of what kind of product will they put on the field? Again, I think it'll be good. I think we can go up there and win. I honestly do. It's just going to be very, very difficult to go do so. I mean, that's one of the hardest places to play, not just in the conference, but I would probably say in all of football. They have a great fan base that comes out there.
They do, and
supports
they'll be
rocking. I'll be
rocking and rolling on that one. There's a possibility they're 2-0 coming into that game. They do play
they should have played more games than 2, right?
I'm sorry, 2-0. So they play Weber State,
that should be a win.
opponent. That's a win. Louisville, that's their P4, could be win-loss, is at Louisville. They go to Lynchburg to play Liberty, arch rival there. Don't play them often, but they hate each other. Probably Liberty's hardest game of the season, right there in week 3. And then they play us. So yeah.
Who do they play after us?
So they play Georgia State after us. So they only play 3 games before us, where we've obviously played 4, and they host Washington State.
All right, so
yeah, so they're probably at minimum 1-2 or maybe 2-1.
Yeah,
if they split between.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that Liberty game.
If they're 3-0 and we're 4-0, that's a huge. That might be a college game day situation.
Possibly, it'll definitely be talked about. I mean, it'll definitely be something that gets talked about a lot if we both come in there undefeated. Because I think, just based on that, you would be probably front runner for a playoff spot. Whoever wins that game, it'll be at that point probably us and whoever the winner in Boise State. It'll probably be the 2 front runners after that week.
Yep.
No, I think again, I don't think we can understate or overstate how important this game is. Again, if we lose it, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that we won't or can't win the East. There'll be 7 more games that we all have to play conference-wise. If we go up there and win, I think that's a huge statement because of just how hard it is to play up there in Virginia, how hard it is to play and get a victory out of Bridgeforth as the visiting team. And that will be a huge, I think, kind of shock across the Sun Belt if we go up there and win. And then everybody's going to be like, okay, so that's who Georgia Southern is.
Yeah. And honestly, not to kind of spoil kind of the expectations that we'll say later, but I feel like this is a game that we need to win, like to cement ourselves to say, hey, we're here. We're not just that team lurking. We're not just that team that's improving year in and year out.
Yeah.
We're taking that next step.
That's a bold comment.
This is the type of game that you have to find a way to win.
Mhm.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, your back's against the wall. Yes, maybe it's not ideal with the way like the schedule where you're getting them right out of the gate. But like, I feel like it's a game. Like we have to get beyond the excuses this year, right? And like my big thing is like win the games you got to win. Period. And like then everything else will take care of itself. Don't rely on being in a situation like you were last year where you're hoping that James Madison beats Marshall and you back your way into the that's not going to happen. We're not going to get in that way. We have to take things in our control, and I think that starts September 27th up at Bridgeforth. So, again, is it the end of the season if we lose? No. But I think for us to show like our like coming out party, like, hey, we're here. We're not just that team lurking, like we are the team to beat. I think this is the game that we
Gotcha. No, that's a great point.
So regardless of how of how that game plays out and how out of conference plays out, then it gets real interesting.
Yeah,
because it gets real interesting. So I'm going to share my screen again. But so then we go into a bye week, the dreaded bye week. So we get October 4th off, and then we play a short week after that, Thursday night home game against the Southern Miss Thundering Herd. I mean, Golden Eagles. So, and because they're basically Marshall 1.5.
Marshall Light.
They're Marshall Light. They took most of their roster. They returned more Marshall players than Marshall does, which is just the funniest stat ever. I mean, I've never heard anything like that before. But yeah, I mean, obviously still first year head coach and Charles Huff there. There's still going to be, some growing pains. We get them early enough. But again, to me, it's not really about the opponent at this point. It's about us and that dreaded bye week, which we all know has just been a thorn in our side.
Yeah, no.
We have not played well after the bye week. So regardless of what happens up there in Harrisonburg, Virginia, regardless of what happens out in California, this scares the living crap out of me, Cody, because like I think the wheels could start to fall off, or like they might already be coming off at this point. And if we don't find a way to win after a bye week, then we're in a world of hurt. If we go down 0-1 in conference play against JMU, we get that bye week to seemingly correct it. And then we play Southern Miss, also coming off a bye week, and we host them. They're a team that's hungry with Marshall's roster like that, and we find ourselves 0-2. Then season might be over.
I wouldn't say it would be that drastic in terms of the season's over. I think you can probably make a good point that maybe the chances of getting to the conference championship would be over. But no, we made the point last year that anytime we played Marshall under Coach Huff, the game was always a very weird game. And sure enough, it did not disappoint last year with how weird that game was against Marshall, with the comeback and the fumbles and the kind of the baffling calls throughout the whole game, where it seemed like every call went against us until it got to about the fourth quarter, when all of a sudden, oh yeah, that was a fumble. Nobody could tell if it was a fumble or not. Let's just be honest about at least the last one. Again, I share the concern of coming off a bye week. I think that's going to be a main focus. I don't foresee us being as flat as we were in the Troy game last year, coming off that bye week. I think that I think this team is very mindful of the fact of how they performed in that game, how they performed in the bowl game, how close they were to, I think, accomplishing a lot of their goals that they wanted to accomplish and falling just short. I think this is a game they probably have circled, not because it's Southern Miss or not because it's, Marshall 2.0, but it's because it's that bye week. And it's like, this is a chance to where we can come out here and prove to ourselves that we're finally getting over it. Like you just said, getting over the hump against JMU, and you need to take that victory, and you take that game. This is the one where we need to come out here and show that just because it's a bye week, it doesn't matter. We're not going to come out here flat. We're going to come out here excited. We're going to come out here and we're going to blow the doors off the opponent. And yeah, that Southern Miss team is not the 1-11 Southern Miss team that it was last year. It's a lot closer to the Marshall
Sun Belt preseason player of the year, Braylon Braxton, right? is their quarterback,
I look
obviously
at
at
this,
Marshall last year.
and you can't tell me that there's a possibility that we don't have the two most difficult opponents out of the West. I know that a lot of folks are going to say Texas State and Louisiana, but there's a good argument that Southern Miss and Arkansas State could finish 1-2 in that conference
I think they could. Yeah. I think Arkansas State is certainly up there. They've kind of been building something with Butch Jones. It's taken longer than I think a lot of people thought, but they finally turned that corner last year, similar to us.
They have a good quarterback too.
They have a good quarterback too. I think they're on a similar trajectory, right? They have a lot of continuity, like we have with their coaching staff. They've just kind of slowly been building, and this could be the year that they say, in a wide open West of like, hey, we're that team where Louisiana. Quarterback issues, Texas State, they got gutted with transfer portal, so like it's I agree. I think Southern Miss is going to be a dangerous team. Are they going to contend for the West? Probably not. They'll probably end up either maybe starting hot and falling off, or struggling out of the gate. Let's hope for that for when we get them. and then pick, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they snap off a 4 or 5 game winning streak to like end the season, something like that.
Remember in 2014 when us and App came in, and App started off like 1-5, and we shellacked them, and all of a sudden they won like their last 6 games and finished like 7-5. I could see something like that with Southern Miss,
100%.
Where they start off like 1-3, and then the last like 8 games, or they finished like 7-1 or 6-2 or something like that.
Yeah, because I mean so after us they have at Louisiana, ULM, at bye week, then at Arkansas State, Texas State, at South Alabama, and then Troy. So they absolutely, if they could figure out a way to beat Arkansas State on the road, which is going to be tough, I think they could beat Texas State possibly at home, beat South Alabama on the road, and beat Troy at home. So
and the thing too about it is that Southern Miss has been bad for so long that folks don't realize just how crazy that fan base can get when they have a really good football team. You look back at the
sleeping giant
90s and early 2000s. I mean, that stadium was rocking.
They've got a big stadium. They got a passionate fan base.
Baseball stadium. When they go out to,
they go nuts.
They go nuts.
They're make no mistake about it. As much as they love baseball, that's a football state.
Oh yeah.
It's a football state, and they'll come out and support their team if they have a quality product. And I think Charles Huff will deliver a quality product at some point. It might not be immediate. It might not even be this season. But I think he's a quality head coach, and I think he's going to turn things around.
He's a quality head coach, even though his first couple of seasons at Marshall were not the records that I think most Marshall fans wanted. Yeah, I think they were always at least 6-6 or better.
Which Southern Miss would kill for now,
exactly.
Right? And then you have a year like Marshall did last year, where like Huff was on
9-3 or whatever.
9-3, and he Huff came into the season on the hot seat, and people thought maybe he wouldn't even make it the length of the season, and then of course it leaves on his own accord, and obviously rumors of like not getting along with administration and his wife not liking Huntington, West Virginia, and like all this kind of stuff. But like, I don't know. So maybe he's more at home in Hattiesburg, but yeah, I think it's a good fit, it seems. And, my hope is that we get them early enough, they'll come into our game having played Mississippi State, which is going to be an interesting one, not a very good SEC opponent, but yeah, obviously they'll be playing up in that game.
I saw a video on X about, like, for some reason, one of those, how they scroll the videos through, and it was scrolled through some Mississippi radio sports disc jockeys or whatever talking about Southern Miss and that Mississippi State game. And apparently the guy who was talking had been to both Southern Miss and Mississippi State practices. And they were asking him, all right, now that you've been to a few practices for each team, how do they look? What is your assessment of how the game's going to be? And pretty much he said, I think the Mississippi State fans are going to be a lot more nervous than what they hope to be.
Yeah.
During that game.
They host them too.
Yeah.
Like it's at Southern Miss. They start with 3 straight home games: Mississippi State, Jackson State, and Appalachian State.
Okay.
So that's super interesting. And then they go to Louisiana Tech, which is obviously joining the Sun Belt here. And
not this year, though.
Not this year. Not this year, but they do play them.
It's an out-of-conference game.
And out of conference game, and they're a rival, right? They're fairly close, and apparently they no love lost in that one. Apparently they hate each other. And then Jacksonville State, so they common opponent, so they play Jacksonville State, so that'll be interesting to see how they fare against them and kind of compare that
Do
against.
they play
us.
Jacksonville State before they play us?
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So after Louisiana Tech, so Mississippi State, Jackson State, Appalachian State, at Louisiana Tech, Jacksonville State. So they start the year with 4 home games of the first 5 games.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is.
And then they go to us, to Louisiana, host ULM, and then in the season at Arkansas State, hosting Texas State, at South Alabama, and then hosting Troy. So yeah, it's a good. I feel like we get them early enough. We'll be able to kind of see who they are and who they can be, I think, by that point. But I'm hoping it's still early enough where, especially at home, we can take care of business.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is Southern Miss, Huff did not bring, I don't think he brought either one of the coordinators from Marshall to Southern Miss. In fact, the offensive coordinator is Blake Anderson, who used to be the former head coach at Arkansas State and Utah State. And so I would venture to say that offense will probably be pretty good, considering that Blake Anderson has always been a really good coach wherever he's been at, whether that's Arkansas State or Utah State, and has always had good offenses as well that could put up points. So yeah, I think Southern Miss is a team to be watched, to say the least, and should not be one that we take in lightly when they come into town on, what is that, October the 9th?
Yeah, that's October the 9th, Thursday. Again, yeah, like it's after a bye week. It's also a Thursday game. We haven't played that well with midweek games, so it's kind of a perfect storm, if you will, of disaster possibly. But again, you're going to sense a theme here, but like, if we want to get to where I think myself and you, Cody, and most of our fan base expect us to be, we got to get over that hump.
Yeah, you're right.
We got to find a way to shake that, stigma, shake that, whatever you want to call it, off our backs of can't perform after a bye week, can't, perform on a midweek game, maybe where the crowd's not in it or whatever. I think certainly if we beat JMU, and we have a good out-of-conference showing, I think we see a pretty good crowd with that one, but obviously always hard for like the Metro Atlanta folks to make it down for a Thursday night game. Students should be there, again, if we're having a good season at that point. So moving on, if we get through that, then we
to the second question mark of a team.
Second question mark of a team, Georgia State, take care of business up there in Atlanta last year. We get them for homecoming this year, which I could get this wrong, Cody, so correct me if I'm wrong if you know it. I want to say we've played them for homecoming before, and I want to say that was a game we lost, but I'm not quite sure.
Rob, I mean, I am not sure either. I would probably assume that we've had them as homecoming before. I don't think it was that 2015 game, because that was the last game of the year when we had them for that one, the last game for Willie Fritz in Statesboro. So I don't think that was homecoming. I'm trying to think, the other year would be 2017. I don't know if that was homecoming either, and then 2019. So no, I'm not sure if we've ever had them for homecoming. But again, this is another team, Del McGee. Obviously, we know the storyline with that. We talked about it at length last year. The thing about Georgia State is they've also have changed out both their offensive and defensive coordinators. I think they've had an influx of talent, portal and through high school, to kind of add some depth and improve at some positions. I think particularly the quarterback and running back positions, as well as I think receiver too, at least on the offense aspect of it. Not too familiar with what's happening on their defensive side of the ball. But to me, I think if you listen to anything or anyone around the Georgia State program, not just to Ben Moore, but I think to some other folks that are around that program, there is a silent optimism within the program. I don't think they want to come out and state it because it is Georgia State and they don't have the history really of winning a whole lot. But I think that a lot of folks inside that program feel like that they are not a 3-win team. I think a lot of them feel like a 6-6 record is probably attainable this year, and that they think that they could probably make a bowl game. I think, if you look at a lot of the order of predictions as to where they will fall, you have a lot of folks having them near the bottom. I just don't know. Again, you asked me and Matt And I think we have all the respect in the world for Dale McGee. I don't see him coming into a second year as a head coach anywhere and being anything less than a 500 record, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
And
I
so I
think
think this is going to be
they're
a
a
much
bowl
improved
team.
team.
I think they're a bowl team. I don't think they're in contention, certainly late in the season for the East, but I think they're going to
They're going to beat somebody that's going to make
beat
it.
somebody. Yes, they're going to screw someone up.
Yep.
They're going to find a way to screw it up for a team, and that could be us. But again, with that theme, we get them at home. It's homecoming. It's our arch rival. They'll be improved, but we still should be a better team. I think we'll be a better team on paper. I think we'll be a better team from the track record at that point in the season, and that's just a game we have to win. Point blank. Period. It just is. So like maybe it's closer than it was last year in Atlanta, but yeah, I think we have a better team than what we beat them with last year. They'll be improved, but again, they have the same quarterback. I'm not super impressed with that guy.
No, I think they got a transfer quarterback that may actually be starting over him. I don't think that's a guarantee that who they played last year is going to be the starting quarterback coming into this year.
Got it. Okay.
If it is, I would be surprised. And that would probably make me think that maybe they are closer to a 4 or 5 win team than they are a 6 or 7 win team if he starts again.
Interesting.
But no, I see the theme with you, Matt, is that who cares who the opponent is? We've got to win these games.
Period.
It doesn't matter.
There's no excuses, Cody. Because again, like we're gonna sit here and we're gonna like reason. Well, this was after a bye week. Yeah. Well, they got a new head coach. Well, they have the preseason player of the year. Blah blah. Like, no, you're gonna have that every year. There are going to be trap games. There are going to be, teams that, are kind of middle of the pack, 6-6, 7-5 type team that absolutely could beat you on any given Saturday. That's just life. But guess what? Marshall found a way to do it. App State found a way to do it several years. JMU has found a way to do it. Coastal found a way to do it during the COVID years. We got to find a way to do it. Period. Like that's basically where I'm at is like, yes, I am not dismissing the strength of schedule. I'm not dismissing how difficult it is. I'm not dismissing and just, throwing out those teams that on paper don't stack up to us, like the Southern Misses, like the Georgia States, because they absolutely can beat us. But for us to achieve what I and many fans expect us to achieve this year, got to find a way to do it. Just period.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think that's I guess you want to kind of put what it is that the fans are looking for. I think it's is to quit with any of the excuses. It's, you can find an excuse, I think, with any team as to why they can be difficult to beat, but we just have to go out there and do it. No, I think they hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly it. Like you could look at the next game with Arkansas State and say, well, it's a tough place to play on the road. They have a good head coach and they have a good quarterback. Defense could be strong as steel. They could be as useful as a screen door in a submarine. You never know what you're going to get with that defense. But then, if you scroll down a little bit on your screen and insert the final games, that November slate with App State, Coastal, Old Dominion, and Marshall, 3 of those 4 teams, nobody has any clue. And I don't even know if the coaching staffs for those 3 teams have any clue what they have in terms of App State, Coastal, and Marshall. Those are 3 new staffs with pretty much completely, new teams from transfer recruits, and nobody knows what you're going to get with App, Coastal, and Marshall. And if anybody can tell you, I think Marshall's dead last, or I think App's going to be about 3rd or 4th, or I think Coastal can make a run for it with Tim Beck, that is complete, just utter lunacy, because you have no data, you have no point to look back at any of this and say, yeah, I think those teams can be X, Y, and Z, because they're just crapshoots at the moment. We have no.
They're crapshoots. I would be shocked if Marshall makes a bowl this year. I would.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take. I'm not saying they're going to go from first to worst necessarily, but I think that's just a really, really hard situation for that new head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, completely gutted. I think, maybe they're on the right track and can turn things around. Maybe they're like a Southern Miss where like things start really bad and they find themselves with 1 win or 2 wins going into November, and then they string a couple wins together. But which again doesn't bode well for us. That would be like that like excuse.
Yeah.
I'd rather get like a Marshall in the first game of the season, or in the first conference game of the season,
That's what I was gonna
instead of
say.
last.
Yeah.
Because by last they're going to figure some stuff out.
It's like Troy was last year. Like if you wanted to play Troy, you needed to play them within those first 7 games.
Exactly.
Playing them in those last 4 or 5 games when they realized, oh, if we just try to run the ball and control the time of clock and play decent defense, we may actually have a chance of winning some games. And I think they won 3 of their last 4. Marshall could be something similar to that, to where the first 6, 7 games they look absolutely terrible, but those last 4 or 5 they get some stuff figured out and they're actually a decent ball team that you have to go up against, even though the stats and everything else show otherwise.
Yeah, well, and then you have like Old Dominion, which I think of these 4 is the one that I'm frankly most worried about. We do get them at home.
Yeah.
Obviously, we lost to them the last 2 years. They beat us the last time they played us in Paulson in a game we shouldn't have lost. A game where, we did come down and take the lead late and then allowed them to march right down the field, less than a minute, kick a field goal, and walk it off. They're a team that a rare team that returns their starting quarterback. They actually have 2 guys that started last year. They returned both of those guys. Their defense is stout, gave us fits last year, runs a unique scheme that we had no answer for. And, they've got like multi 100 tacklers, defensive players that, they're good.
They are.
I think they're a bowl team this year, but they're a team, unlike what we were saying with Marshall and unlike Troy, that starts the season pretty good and then just falls off. So that's actually probably a promising thing that we play them not just at home, but play them so late in the year. After beating us on Thursday night last year, 47-19, they lose to Appalachian State, lose to James Madison, lose to Marshall. All 3 fairly good teams, and then beat Arkansas State 40-30.
And I think all of those games were like 1 possession games too. Like I don't think anything was a blowout.
They only had one. All but one of their losses was 1 possession game.
Yeah. So again, if you're gonna ask me honestly, I think looking at the schedule and looking how things are, it's very possible that Old Dominion game determines who wins the East.
The Old Dominion game?
Yeah. I think it comes down to the winner of that game. And I think that could very well be the possibility.
Even if we lose against JMU?
Yeah, because JMU has to also play Old Dominion. JMU also has to go to at Texas State, and they have Louisiana come to their place. They don't have the easiest of schedules either when it comes to their draw out of the West. You saw where they went to ULM last year and lost. You saw where when they're on the road, they weren't really as dominant as they were at home, right? Yeah. So again, I think they go. I don't know if they go to Old Dominion this year, if they have Old Dominion at home, but I know that they have. I think us, App, and Marshall at home, and I know that I think they also have Louisiana at home.
They have Old Dominion at home.
Oh, they do have Old Dominion.
That's
at home?
Their homecoming.
That's their homecoming. Okay, so again, I think Old Dominion could beat them, and I don't think the game last year was really that crazy in terms of spread. I think it was like a 3-point game, 4-point game.
30-32.
Okay, so yeah, close game. Again, I think Old Dominion can easily can beat JMU, not easily, but I think they can beat JMU. I think JMU has a tough road against. If they lose to those 2 games, that's a 6-2 record right there. You haven't even talked about them going to their other East opponents. I think it's Coastal.
They go to Coastal to close out the year. They go to Texas State out of the West, to Marshall.
I think to Georgia State, right?
They go to Georgia State.
Yeah.
They host Louisiana. They host App State. So, yeah, it's not an easy road.
No, it's not. So I'm looking at the Old Dominion game, and to me, I think the winner of that wins the East.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, and I guess the other, while we're talking about like excuses or getting beyond those excuses, right? I'm circling on the screen here for those watching November.
Yeah.
The commonality here, these games are in November. Now going into last season, we hadn't won a game in November. So now, obviously
We have to with this schedule in November, we have to go 4-0.
I agree.
There's no. I mean, I know we have to go to App State and at Marshall, but you have to figure out a way to win that. And the App State game is was the same as the Southern Miss game. It's after a bye and it's a short week on Thursday night. We got to figure out a way to win the game. I mean, we just do. We just
Agreed.
do.
Yeah, that's the theme of this. I mean, like you can throw look, is this schedule like what Liberty faces in Conference USA? No. Like this isn't one of those where it's just like, look, we're so far and beyond everybody like on paper and should just run through it. I mean, of course, typically that doesn't even, come to fruition. But with this, like again, any of these teams can beat us on any given week, point blank period, outside of probably Maine. So a lot of these games could possibly be toss-ups depending on the situations when they're at hand, but we've got to find a way to come out on the
we have to
on the winning end.
We have to.
Yeah. So, and I guess that's a good segue, Cody, to just expectations. Like, it should be obvious at this point, but like my expectation, like when it comes to win loss, I want to be careful of not like conflating this with like, I think our record should be 10-2, and we have done that in the past, right? And I think rightly so, because I think as we were building this thing in the Clay Helton era, that was what the expectation should be. Mm-hmm. That's what was realistic of like, hey, that first year, breaking in a new offense, breaking in a new transfer quarterback, breaking in, new defense. If we can get to 6 wins, which we did, and get to a bowl game, that's probably a win. That's a victory, right? Yep. And then the second year, it's like, okay, we kind of, same thing, 6-6, finish 6-7, lose the bowl game. Not ideal. Last year, we're like, we got to take that next step. We got to win not just one more game than we have the past 2, but probably at least 2. We do that. We get to 8-5. Yeah, 8-4, 8-4, and then 8-5 losing the bowl game again. This year, I frankly don't care how many games we win or lose. I really don't. What I care about is what that results in. All right. So I want us in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Point blank period. I want us to win the East. That's my expectation. Whatever it takes to do that, that's what I want us to do. I want us to do it in a way that we control our own destiny, that we don't have to back our ways in and be sitting on pins and needles, needing JMU or Marshall or App State or somebody like that to pull off a win and help us. So if that means we have to go 8-0 in the conference, then we're 8-0 in the conference. If we can get away with one loss, and that loss is against, JMU, or that loss is against Coastal or whoever, so be it. If we could get away with 2 losses, now you're pushing it. But if one of those losses isn't JMU and we have that tiebreak over them, it's possible. 3, you're completely out. We can't go 5-3 like we did last year, or I'm sorry, we were 6-2 last year. So I don't know if 6-2 gets it done. But my point is like, I don't care if it's 6-2 or 8-0. The expectation is that we're in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game when we get to December 5th, point blank period. We're playing that weekend.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, and understand your thought process and how you're thinking in terms of that. I just think that if your expectations is to make it to the conference championship, I think it is absolutely can be no less than 7-1. I just don't think that's possible really to kind of get into that without you being at least 7-1. And even 7-1 may mean that you need somebody to help you out and beat JMU or beat ODU or whoever the one lost, But no, again, to me, the expectations is you look at last year and we were literally, if you look at the Troy game, probably 5-6 plays away from winning that game if we just do a few things different and not having to worry about if Marshall loses or beats JMU or whatever the case would be. Was it going to take for this year to make those 5 or 6 plays in our favor to where, like you said, we're not having to be sitting on the field, looking up at the video board, watching a game the last week of the season saying, oh man, I hope this team wins so we can go play an extra game for the championship.
Right. Yeah, I want James Madison fans to be doing that with us when
Yeah.
we're playing Marshall, and then for us to blow Marshall out of the water.
Honestly,
Right?
I don't even want it to be that close. I already want
You
it to
just
be
want
done.
us to go
Yeah.
into the final week and we can coast and sit
Yeah.
players and stuff. Yeah.
Well, not even.
Like,
I don't know.
yeah.
I wouldn't even say do that. Just blow everybody out of the water.
Just blow everybody out. No, I agree. I would love to get back to that. And again, like I don't want to get to like total record because that counts out of conference and like that. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. Obviously, it doesn't matter for Sun Belt for conference aspirations, but you know, obviously, yeah, like if we could be 7-1, or certainly if we could be 8-0, and we have a really good,
Yeah.
you know, out of conference record, then all of a sudden you're talking about maybe even bigger things than just the Sun Belt, you know, with college football playoff and things like that. Like if our only loss is to USC and we're an 11-1 team, then and USC has a good year and they're a playoff team themselves, then yeah, I think we have a pretty good case of course if we go on and win the Sun Belt, you know, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like again, that's my expectation is to at least get to the show and then see what happens. I'm not saying it's like Sunbelt championship or bust, but at least find a way to get there. I think certainly coming out of the East, we position ourselves really well to win a Sunbelt championship if we can just get in the game. But again, I mean, maybe that's with a 7-1 conference record, 8-0, and we're 2-2 and out of conference, or we're 1-3 and out of conference. I really don't care that much. To me, it's conference. We got to find a way to win the East, represent the East, and put ourselves in play to win a championship.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's exactly where it's at. There's no more of trying to build to something. Okay, we've got to where we need to be at. Let's go win it, and let's go put ourselves in the situation to go do it. Because 11 years between conference championships, honestly, is just way too long. For our program. I mean, it's just it just is. I don't really have anything else to add to that because I think we're in line with those expectations. And I think you're right in terms of what the record is. Obviously, if you want to do that, your record's going to have to be good. Whether it's 7-1, 8-0 in conference, whether you're 11-1 or 9-3, it doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as you're there.
Yeah.
As long as you're there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think. And honestly, I hope that's where the majority, if not all, of the fan base is at this point. I think there's some folks that are still kind of just scared just based on how things have gone in years past. But I'm hoping that the expectation around this program with the students and with the fans are, okay, this is the year that things need we need to take the next step. We need to be in that conference championship game.
Period. Yeah, we need to. And again, the way I know we didn't go through like the West thoroughly, we just focused on, you know, the two teams we get out of the West and Southern Miss and Arkansas State. But, you know, I think, you know, if we had gotten there last year, you never know, you know, what's going to happen. But Louisiana loses their quarterback. They get their doors blown off by Marshall. We probably win that game.
Yeah.
If we find a way to back in. And yeah, I think, you know, we have a really good shot of winning the championship, but we got to get there first. And that to me is the goal of just like win the East. You put yourself in position to win a championship.
Yeah.
You're you know, foot on the gas the entire season.
No
You're
more
in the driver's seat.
Yeah, no more excuses about bye weeks, about road games, about any of this stuff. You showed last year you could win on the road.
Georgia State's improving. ODU has a tricky offense or defense. I don't care.
Everybody's improving. Yeah. Everybody has some sort of wrinkle in their offense or defense.
There's no
that makes it
complete give me games.
Yeah.
There's just not. I mean, there's never going to be ever.
No.
Not in this conference. There's never going to be a give me game from here out. You know, and
yeah, it's not like how it was with the early days with Fritz. It wasn't like how, you know, where it was when we were in the SoCon. No, the Sun Belt has really positioned itself quite well to elevate, I think, mostly, honestly, all of the programs to where there isn't a cupcake game anymore.
It's a good point. Yeah. I mean, look, we're not taking anything away from Fritz. Obviously, he brought us our only Sun Belt championship when there wasn't a championship game back in 2014 in our first year. Went 8-0 to do so, but I would say there was a lot of gimme games in that. Yes, we had FCS Russell. I get it, but like we were playing Idaho.
On those programs
it was
terrible.
It was terrible.
Georgia State was bad.
It was a bottom dweller conference. It was by far the worst conference in the country by a mile.
Yeah.
And that is not the case now. We are squarely the second best group of 5 or 6, whatever you want to call it, if not the best, top to bottom. And, yeah, it's a grind. It's, it's a gauntlet every year. But again, like all these our peers found a way to do it. Our peers with similar budgets, with similar challenges facing them, with recruiting, with the transfer portal, with all the things, right? App State found a way to do it, 3 times? Coastal found a way to do it. JMU has found a way to do it. Like, it's, yeah, we got to find a way to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep. So with that being said, is there anything else you want to add to put a bow on this before I think the next episode is going to be the Fresno State preview?
Yep. So this is officially the end of our season preview. So part 2 of that, and then we typically bake in the first preview, a team preview, or game preview, I guess I should say, of the season with one of these preview episodes. But because Fresno is playing in week 0, and we've got a couple weeks here, we will we'll watch that game. We'll probably record that night. By the time that episode's out, it will be game week. But we'll already have one game in the books for Fresno to kind of break down and figure out maybe who they are and how we shape up against them. But so that'll be the next one, and then it'll be
be on after that. Yeah, it will be.
It'll be on.
It's
after
here.
That,
it is less than 3 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away for those week 0 games. I think this will be probably when we release this, it'll probably be closer than that, right? Because we kind of did all these in a
well,
bunch.
This will probably be the week before week 0.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. But yeah, no, I think, man, football's here, man. It's here. It's
here. It's here. And look, I mean, honestly, like, I think we always say like cautiously optimistic and stuff. And like, it's because, yes, we've been let down so many times, and, not just in the Clay Helton era, but just in general. And,
yeah,
it's like Cody said, it's been 11 years. We've been doing this for 8. We haven't had a whole lot to talk about on this podcast outside of like bowl destinations and bowl eligibility and things like that. I want that to change this season. I want to talk about like, we're in the hunt. We stay in the hunt. We're the front runner. We have the target on our back. It never leaves us,
Well, that was fun last year when we were doing that. I just want it to be more leading from the front than it is. After that Troy game, it got to be where it was like, damn, like now we're gonna have to need some help here, and unfortunately, we never got it. But no, I agree. I agree with you. Honestly, Matt, from the feel of these preseason episodes, I feel like we're probably going to be a lot more critical of this season than we have been the last couple of years. Especially,
because again, the excuses aren't there. I mean, like they're like year 4 of Clay Helton. He gets the 5-year extension. I know we have an impatient fan base. I know we're all equally hungry, regardless of what we thought of the hire and all that kind of stuff. Like we get it. We're all in the same boat in that we are starved for a championship.
Yeah.
Right. I think this has to be the year that, again, we take that leap. It's not just those baby steps. This is what the training wheels are coming off. We gotta start running and cement ourselves as like the team to beat for this year and years to come, because what we've been building is, we've potentially be returning a quarterback for the 3rd straight year next year, possibly. Really good defense again. Like, so like it's certainly not to get ahead of ourselves, but like things have been building to this. And if we have another year of either mediocrity or just slightly above par, 7 wins, 8 wins, whatever that is, again, less about the wins. And like, if we're out of contention, if we're like watching on the Jumbotron, like you said, and we fall short again, people aren't going to be happy about it. Like it's like, we're done being content with things, right? Like that's where we're at. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the theme, and that's it. We can do it. We absolutely can do it. We just have, like, to me, our biggest challenge, our biggest opponents ourselves.
I agree with that. I think
we have to get out of our own way, right? Last year it was Troy, it was Old Dominion, right? We beat App State, we beat JMU, we beat Marshall. We lost to Troy and Old Dominion. Like, we have to get out of our own way. So whatever it is, bye week, opponent playing up to you, emotions running high, rival, doesn't matter. Like, that's it, you know? So with that, Cody, yeah,
All right.
I am excited, but yeah, we'll get into talking kind of X's and O's next time, break it down Fresno State. And, but until then, and as always, Hail Southern.
Hail Southern.
Man,